Welcome in London to a special edition of InterGeo TV.
We do have very good data in Australia, and I think we've been proudly associated with building many of these data sets across the country for about 20 years. And we sort of sat back and said, well, there's actually something missing here. We don't know where the buildings are. We have wonderful information for the rest of the country. How do we fill that gap? The reality is, up until now, there really hasn't been a technology or a combination of technologies that's enabled the capture of all of that information. And so the challenge was, could we do that now in a way that would enable us to make it commercially viable? We needed to be able to cover a whole continent, but to do so at a price point that would make it attractive. How did we do it? Well, I guess it took the belief of some people that there was a way to bring different types of processes, techniques and technologies together in a way that hadn't been done before. We went to market and actually asked a whole lot of questions about what could be done. And in most corners of the market, we got back answers that were disappointing in the sense that we could deliver what we were after, but we couldn't afford it. And so the real question here was, could we take a traditional approach, or did we have to come up with something very new that would enable us to get the scale that we needed at the price point? And it was the latter. And at the end of the day, it was a partnership with Digital Globe, a partner who, as it happens, was very open to considering a new way of doing business and a new way of applying its technology to solve this problem. And so that's really how we've come about a solution. As a commercial entity, and we've been reasonably successful over the last 10 or 15 years in our commercial activities around other national spatial products. That's enabled us to build up a war chest, if you like, some retained earnings from past years that we then put forward to new problems and new challenges. And so at the moment we're drawing on that war chest to help solve this problem, to come up with the solution that would deliver to the country a brand new data product that didn't previously exist. We've had to be very careful about that, of course, and I have a board that is nervously waiting to see how our analysis and so forth goes as we move forward through the process. But we've built a very strong business case, and one that I think demonstrates not only have we discovered a technically viable product, but also that there's a strong market demand for this product as well. And when we can bring the two things together, then we will have a successful product. Very, very positive. I guess we've been talking to the market in Australia for about 6 months about this product, very closely with some key players in the insurance industry, but also far more broadly. We have a network of value-added resellers that we utilise, and we've been talking to them about how do they think that their customers would respond to this product. And as we've been able to provide them with more detail and sample data, they've been able to go out and test it. And we now feel that there's a very strong interest, sufficient for us to be able to proceed with the product. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what other countries do. I mean, I think there's advantages and disadvantages in being in Australia. A long way away, there's some isolation. To some extent, you tend to find problems or solutions to problems that are perhaps arrived at differently to other parts of the world. Sometimes that means you're reinventing the wheel. That's not a good thing, but other times you do come up with something quite unique. In this instance, I think we've found something unique. We've looked around to see what else is available at this scale, when I think that's the key at a whole continental level. Are there other existing solutions? And the reality is there aren't too many other countries that have needed to solve this same set of problems. And so as a consequence, they probably haven't been asking the same questions. So I do think what we've done is quite unique from that point of view, and I'm really interested now to test that theory by telling people about what we've done, showing them where we're up to, and seeing whether there are some comparable things around the world or whether this really is a world first. I think incredibly important. I think we're probably a little slower coming to this discussion than other countries. Certainly the UK, they've been very advanced in their discussions around BIM. But I think we have many of the components already in place that are necessary to provide a lot of value around that space, particularly smart cities and BIM. The reality is that you need all of the information and you need the context and a framework in which to be able to hold it. And I think we've heard discussions today about the importance of being able to not just have the information model for a building, but to be able to have that within the context of a much broader framework. And our focus within PSMA Australia is largely around making sure that the country at the continental level has that framework to support a whole range of other initiatives like BIM. And we would see that in the longer term, a product like Geoscape could essentially be the framework that would support a much more sophisticated models and provide that context and relationship.